Welcome back to Miniature Mashup. Today we're taking a plastic Arizona tea bottle and turning it into an awesome Gothic tower for your tabletop. There's a few steps between steep tea and steeple, so let's get started. We start constructing the core by chopping these bottles up. Let's peel this sexy beverage. As I cut the very end of these bottles off, I'm going to try very hard not to make another circumcision joke. I don't want to keep the Arizona tea logo on here. You can keep it on yours if you want to make a home for a wizard who works for the Arizona Tourism Bureau or something. I'm also going to break this tower up by cutting a window into it. I'm going to cut a little slot into the base for our door. This door is made from Durham's rock-hard putty. I made it with a mold of locket from a craft store. I'm just plugging it into the base of the bottle and sealing it in with hot glue. I'm going to give our tower some height by splicing the two bottles together. All of this cutting can be done with an X-Acto or safety knife, but I'm using my Dremel tool because it's faster. Although it does fill the air with an ear-splitting dentist drill whine and a cloud of aerosolized iced tea bottle that tastes a bit like a Band-Aid smells. The red spire comes from a deluxe castle toy set by Toy Major, a product I reviewed on this very channel, but you could certainly model your own spire, which would probably look more convincing than this child's toy. But I wanted to use this piece since I had it on hand. I'm going to place a Halloween skull novelty on top of it with a little hot glue and a toothpick running through it. The bricks in this window are made from a 2-part epoxy putty available at your local big box store or auto parts store. These disappointing pink squares are made from cut foam sheets from the dollar store. They look terrible. Let's consider them a failed experiment. But don't worry, I'll cover them up with something much better soon. I'll be making an earthen base out of this blue XPS foam. I'm going to double it up by attaching 2 pieces with toothpicks and an acid-free paste stick. Then I'm cutting the shape into it with a hot wire cutter. I'll then use the same tool to carve in the steps which will lead up to our tower. I sketch in the steps with a pen first, then I start cutting it out in sections. Pull out a piece, that's the top step. Pull out another, that's the next step. Now I'm painting the foam with a black undercoat and a gray dry brush, and we'll hot glue our tower to the base. Now the tower and the base are stuck together like 2 dogs that like each other very much. These scenic plants are things like Spanish moss and the like. Now a little white PVA glue and some sand to give our base some natural texture. Then some gray dry brushing, some scenic plants, and this is where I decided to stop with this project 4 years ago. I still posted a video about it. It was kind of the Wild West back then. There wasn't nearly as many people in the YouTube crafting space, and though this tower was not good, you're kind of incentivized just to pump out content. But last year I was given a Proxxon foam cutter, and building something worthwhile on the bones of this old craft was one of the first things I wanted to do with my new toy. So I made a bunch of bricks, with the Proxxon, not in the post-sizzler kind of way, and I textured them. There's a lot of videos about how to do that, so I won't go into it here. I didn't innovate anything here, so I'm not going to rehash it. I didn't count the number of bricks needed to cover this tower, but it was as droplets of water in the ocean. It's actually very zen placing all of these bricks. You can really quiet your mind while at this work. Bow. Wow. Ba-boom, mow, mow, ba-boom, mow, mow, ba-ba-boom, mow, mow. This awning is made from a whittled craft stick and quickly assembled with hot glue. I found this grating on a walk. It definitely came off of packaging of some kind. To give it an appealing curvature, I'll bend it around this Sharpie. And then I'll pop it into a window with some more of the hot glue. And now we just place one brick at a time until we get to the top of the tower, and then we finish up with some special angled bricks for our very top. It's hard to write a joke about a tower. I tried, but it ended up just being a bunch of stories. The bulb at the top of our tower is too smooth, the whole thing lacks detail, so I broke it up with some craft sticks and toothpicks and made some supports and bars for our windows. I also put a little row of broken bricks around the spire to cover up that ugly seam the hot glue left on the plastic. Now I'm putting a base coat of lemonade on our tower bulb. I've decided the bulb looks more like adobe and should be painted that way, in contrast to the rest of the gray stone tower. Our undercoat on the tower itself is an affordable gray paint by Liquitex, mixed with a little bit of purple. And then I'll go over that with just the gray. We don't want the consistency to be too runny because we don't want it getting into the cracks, but it's not a full-blown dry brush. You could certainly come back with a dry brush. For that, I would mix gray and white. That's a step I decided against. Any metal on this tower is getting a double coating of the Citadel Technical Paint Typhus Corrosion. It helps provide a rusty texture. I'm just going to paint some aged wood effects onto our awning. Those same effects are going onto our wooden supports. And we're just going to finish up our tower bulb with washes and highlights. This is where most of the painting work got done. I add shadows underneath the spire, under the wood, and under the windows, and highlights on the top of the wood with dry brushing. I'm throwing a little green alcohol-based ink under the window here to give the impression of a green mildew. Perhaps waste is being thrown from the window here regularly. I'm gonna throw out your pay. I'm also gonna add a little flock here and there in the gaps of the bricks to simulate moss. The spire here also gets an entirely new paint job, and I'm adding some more scenic plants to the base. A new paint job for the skull and a little more scenic plants on top of it make it seem more like a real mummified head and less like a Halloween novelty item. Well, now that we've given that Arizona iced tea bottle a full makeover, which has taken 4 years to complete, let's see how it's turned out. If you'd like to look at these pictures, or pictures of any projects we've made in the past, why don't you check out our Facebook page. The link for that is down in the description below. There's plenty of ways to support this channel. You can check out my eBay store where I'm selling all kinds of pre-painted miniatures, graphic novels, all sorts of nerdy things. We've got a Patreon. I've got a GoFundMe campaign I think might still be active. Oh, and there's kind of a dwarf there. I made kind of a dwarf statue by accident. All right, still looks pretty cool. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. None of these things cost you anything, and you wouldn't want to miss any future updates. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I hope to see you again soon.